Okay, hit it.
Real one.
Okay. Ready to start the watch?
Good evening, I'm Jim Whaley. This week's Cinema Showcase is in Savannah, Georgia, and I'm here talking with an actor you may have seen once or twice before, Mr. Burt Reynolds. He's here to start his new film called Gator, and he not only stars in the film, but he's making his debut as a movie director. We'll also be talking tonight, in addition to about Gator, about some of the other films that have made Burt Reynolds one of the best actors we have today. Join me as I talk with Burt Reynolds tonight on Cinema Showcase. Thank you very much for joining Cinema Showcase tonight. And Burt, let me say thanks to you for taking this time out.
Thank you, Jim. The last time we saw each other, you're my good luck charm, you know. Last time we saw each other, we were in the middle of Reedsville Prison, and we made it out of there all right.
Yeah, we both got out.
And I hope a lot of my friends there do, too, by the way. The picture turned out to be a very, very commercial success, and big commercial success.
In fact, it, I think, turned out to be Paramount's second biggest, either of the year or of all time or something, one of their very biggest hits.
It may end up, it's made $56 million so far. It may end up being in the top 10 of all time.
And I hope you had a good chunk of that one.
Well, any chunk would be good when it gets that much, but I had a tiny little chunk,
Yeah.
which is good.
I think Georgia is kind of a good luck charm for you, too. You've made two of your most successful pictures here. Do you look on it as kind of a real good place to make films?
Yes, I do. I'm really kind of, I suppose, I don't know, almost to the point of being fanatical about Georgia. I'd like to shoot 4 out of 5 pictures here, which really wouldn't set too well with a lot of people who want to do desert movies. But I'd like Valentino to be shot here, or whatever. Mm-hmm. I did Deliverance here, as you know, and that was the beginning for me, really. Mm-hmm. Changed everything for me. And then The Longest Yard was kind of like coming home, mm-hmm. you know. And the way that the people of Georgia have responded to my pictures when they play in Atlanta, when they play mm-hmm. around the state of Georgia. I look at the grosses every week, and I'm very, very, very thrilled at their response to the pictures. Yeah. Some that, quite honestly, I didn't think were that good of films, but they're very loyal fans, and mm-hmm. and they think, well, that one wasn't so good, but there'll be another one coming out next week, so we'll hang in there.
What do you think sets the state apart for you, though, filmically speaking? Is that a word, filmically?
Yes, yeah. It is now.
Okay.
It's a very versatile state in terms of landscape. You can get mountains if you want mm-hmm. them. Quite honestly, you could make Georgia look like Florida, as we did mm-hmm. in The Longest Yard. It could certainly be any southern state, and I think downtown Atlanta in some sections could be Chicago.
That's right.
And I wish it was. Its versatility, and mostly the cooperation that the state gives. Mm-hmm. Which I thought when Jimmy Carter left that we would lose that, yeah. but we didn't lose it at all. As a matter of fact, it looks like it's going to hang right in there and even get stronger.
And this is something all states don't do, right?
This is the only state that does it as strong as it does. And it's amazing to me when you think about economics, why they don't do it. It costs a lot of money to support an office that only goes out and recruits films. Mm-hmm. But New Mexico has an office like that, and Arizona, now Florida. But none of them, Ed Spivey's the best of any mm-hmm. of these people that have that job. And he knows, he reads the trades more than I do, and he can tell you the next 15 pictures that are going to be shot and why they should be shot in Georgia. Yeah. He goes out like a fraternity rush party and lures the people down here, and he doesn't wait for them to come visit Georgia. He flies out there and gets them. Yeah. You know? And when you're talking about a movie that costs sometimes $12 million, sometimes $6 million, or $3 million, or $2 million, whatever. Why not spend that money in Georgia? Why spend it in California?
I agree. I'll second that.
Okay.
Let's talk about your new picture that you're about to start. It's called Gator. And you are, of course, making your debut as a director. Is this something you've long wanted to do and are just now getting the chance?
Yeah, I've wanted to direct for 20 years. I really have. I just, I've been on so many films that it doesn't take very long as an actor. And you know, as a film buff and someone who has a great deal of knowledge about film, that film is a director's medium. And no matter how good an actor you are or how bad an actor you are, a director can make you look good or bad or whatever. I mean, Kazan had that wonderful ability to take people who'd never been in front of a camera before and get something very special out of them. You're part psychiatrist, part director, part traffic director. You have to deal with everybody differently. Most directors that I've worked with, quite honestly, are either very good with actors or very good with the camera, and very few of them are both. Bogdanovich has a terrific eye, and sometimes can be, I think, a bit self-indulgent with some people and not as opposed to others. He steals from the very best. He loves John Ford. He loves Orson Welles.
Hawks.
Howard Hawks, exactly. And he's taken little pieces of every one of these guys and puts them in his films, and has been very, very successful at it. Robert Aldrich is a kind of the Vince Lombardi type, you know. He's sensational with men and The Dirty Dozen, The Longest Yard, that kind of a picture. And probably the only director that could handle Joan Crawford and Bette Davis at the same time, which is like handling the Green Bay Packers. He's got a good eye, but Bob doesn't give a damn about whether you're wearing red and I'm wearing pink and blue or whatever, and he's not really concerned about composition. He's more concerned about, you know, the pace of the movie and how it hits you, you know, and let's get it going, and let's get on with it. And other directors, Sidney Fury wants to shoot between your crotch and get a great shot of the leaf falling from the tree or whatever, you know. And
what about Donen, Stanley Donen?
Stanley is a very stylized director, and when you think about Stanley's track record, it's incredible. The man, I think he was 23 years old when he directed Singing in the Rain, co-directed it, and nobody ever gave him credit for it. They all said it was Gene Kelly's picture, but if you look at Gene Kelly's directing credits after Singing in the Rain, look at Stanley Donen's, it's not very difficult to see who directed Singing in the Rain. I happen to think that Two for the Road is one of the classic films of all time. Arabesque, which was a very stylized picture. Two for the Road was the first time anybody had cut that kind of intercutting where you're driving along in a car and suddenly you're driving along in a car 2 years later or 2 years from now. He was the first guy to ever do that.
I think that confused some of the people at the time, some critics at the time, maybe.
Nobody understood the picture at all. You look at the picture now and you think that the picture is a cliche. Well, they all copied from that picture. It's hard to put your finger on Stanley. He's come totally around. He told me that when he first started directing, he loved long master shots, you know, never cutting in, only using, like Hitchcock, only using what he wanted to use. He now has come full circle where he went from covering everybody, because he got a little frantic, to now covering a lot, but still every once in a while doing one of those shots just to get the crew excited and keeping them on their toes. He's wonderful with people in a room, you know, scenes between 4 people, 2 people, whatever. He's not a good action director. But he's a smart enough man to know that when you get to the action sequences, you give them to the stunt man and you say, go.
Talking about these various directors with whom you've worked, do you see yourself closer in temperament or style to any one of them in your directorial debut?
I would hope to do like Bogdanovich and steal from the best of each one. No, I'm not particularly like any of them in temperament. Bogdanovich is a very much a intellectual, cerebral director, and I think I kind of direct from here and here, I hope, and some from here. John Borman is difficult to pin down as a director. He doesn't, just about the time you think he doesn't care about you as an individual, as an actor, he turns around and does something absolutely wonderful, which I think he purposely does that, just to kind of keep you on your toes. He believes that the entire crew is there to be the slaves of the actor and the camera and him. And only the actors are allowed to make a mistake. I find that creates a little bit of tension, but it also makes one, if you're an actor, feel terrific. Aldrich has a tendency to lean almost the other way. The crew is most important. The actors are second, and somewhere way down the line, especially if you happen to be the star, he likes to keep you in line. Bob is a very sentimental guy who tries to hide it by being very, very tough. I think that being sentimental, there's nothing wrong with being very sentimental and showing it on the surface. Stanley Donen, I don't know quite what style he's in. I suppose the Mike Nichols style. I mean, in the sense that he does like to improvise a little bit, not to the point of Bob Altman or any of those people. I don't know Kazan as a director. I only know him personally, but I can tell you that I would love to work for him very much.
Most actors say that.
Francis Ford Coppola, I think, probably would be my second choice. Only because Gene Hackman, who is the most honest actor I've ever seen, not only to everybody else, but to himself. When you say to him, who would you work for again? He says, only one. And he's worked for an awful lot of very big directors. Francis apparently loves actors and takes a great deal of time with them, and gives them credit for bringing something of their own to the picture and trying to dig down and get that and bring it out. I think that as a director, my first instinct would be to say, what is it that this person on the surface and underneath has that makes them attractive? What's the most attractive thing about this person? When you host a Tonight Show, I think it's your job, when you're sitting in that chair, to make that person be as funny, as entertaining, as delightful as possible. Not to put them down unless they get out of line. And unless putting them down will make them look better because they can come back and put you down, and it's a one-on-one situation. As a director, I'd like to take actors and say, that actor is going to be sensational in an improvisational situation. That actor is going to be sensational if I can keep him from acting, if I can keep him from
tone him down,
doing all kinds of stuff, you know. You take Keenan Wynn and make him stop working for the last row in the theater, and he's a marvelous actor.
Okay, who are some of the actors you've lined up for Gator?
Well, Jack Weston, who Jack has the ability to take a line that's not funny and say it, and it somehow comes out funny. I need a guy who looks like he would be sweating in an ice box. Jack is that character. He also has to look like he absolutely does not belong in Georgia, and Jack doesn't belong in Georgia. Lauren Hutton, I think, potentially, and I hate that word, it's a very mean word, but I think potentially is a terrific actress. She has a great sense of humor. She has incredible ambition, great chutzpah, And she says, I was absolutely terrible in The Gambler. I was a turkey. I've studied every day since then, and I'm going to make it. And she paid her way out to California. She wanted to pay for her own screen test.
Wow.
And she said, I'm going to be good in the film. And that kind of enthusiasm I want in the picture. Jerry Reed is a country and western singer, but Jerry Reed, this is an example of the kind of thing I'm talking about. Jerry Reed, if the line reads, I want to get something to eat, Jerry says, I want to put something down my neck. Well, I happen to think I want to put something down my neck is funnier. And I happen to think it's terrific if he says that. So I'm going to let Jerry go. I'm literally going to say, how would you say this line? And if he can't say the line, I'm going to let him swing with it.
And he plays kind of a ratty character in this, doesn't he?
Yeah, but I think what's going to happen is that the audience is going to fall in love with him, which I want them to do, and then he's going to turn around and kick them in the whatever. And it's going to be a big surprise, and I hope it's going to work for the picture.
Yeah. And Mike Douglas is going to make a...
Mike Douglas is playing the governor, and there's a very kind of important scene in the picture. Kind of gets the picture off in a kind of satirical, tongue-in-cheek, strange way, interesting way, I hope. And that is that Mike, I believe if I was going to vote for somebody, I'd vote for Mike. And I guess because I trust him, you know.
Yeah.
He has that Walter Cronkite ability to say, yeah, I believe him. And I'm not trying to make any analogies between him and Jimmy Carter, but I think that there is something about Jimmy that's very settling, very, you say, yeah, he's got the situation in hand. He may nod off on you, but he's still got it in hand. Well, Mike is, I don't know, I think Mike is going to be a terrific governor. I mean, he just, I think he's just going to look distinguished enough and right enough that it'll work.
What made you decide that Gator would be the perfect story for you to start out directing with?
Well, I didn't, and quite honestly, if I had a picture to pick to direct first, it wouldn't be Gator, but Gator was the one that United Artists said, do you want to direct? And I said, yes, I will do it. If I was going to direct any film, and I could direct any film I wanted first, I would have directed a picture like W.W. and the Dixie Dance Kings, because it's a subject that I happen to know very well, the 50s. I grew up in that time, and Errol Flynn is my idol, and I think he was one of the most underrated actors of all time. And I also love country and western people.
Yeah.
I love Nashville. I love that whole thing. And it's never ever been done before at that time in a movie. Of course, there is a rather famous movie now that has been done, but at that time nobody had ever done it. I would have picked that first, and you know, I think I did direct a lot of that film, even though my name isn't up there.
And Gator is such a, I would imagine, reading the synopsis, a very physical picture. There's a lot of really spectacular action in it.
Yeah, I'm sure that when United Artists decided to let me have $2.5 million to go and play with, that the reason that they let me do it was they said this is an action-adventure picture, and Burt can do those kind of pictures as good as anybody else. But it's more than that. I'm hoping that it will. John Simon will hate it anyway, but I'm hoping that it will be more than that. You know, I hope the relationship between the man and the woman, for example, is a 1975 relationship and not a 1950s relationship.
Right.
I always get the impression every time I'm watching a movie about the South that I'm watching American graffiti in the South. Everybody does 10th grade talk. Let's go eat some watermelon, and then by gosh, maybe we'll...
Talking about the South, it has been fashionable, I think, for a very long time to by certain filmmakers to put down the South and to do the very thing you were talking about. Do you think we're getting away from this, or what's going to be the future of this kind of thing?
Not as long as Macon County Line makes somebody $20 million. We're not going to get away from it. They're going to keep coming down here making those kind of pictures. The only answer is that I think that people like John Borman and really wonderful filmmakers are going to have to come down here and fall in love with the South as much as the people that were born and raised here or have come down here and lived here realize what kind of a place it really is. They even are now. It's to the point where the cliche South. I mean, I was driving around Savannah today, and I saw some black people sitting on a street corner eating watermelon. And I was thinking to myself, if I put that in my film, Pauline Kael is going to kill me. Well, they were eating watermelon, and they were having the time of their life, and that doesn't make them stupid because they like watermelon. The blacks in this particular picture, when I first got the original script, were a little bit like Amos and Andy, and I really got furious about it. And when I came down here to read some black actors and actresses, the first lady that came in to read, she says, "Is this 1950? And I said, "No, it's 1975. She said, "Well, why am I talking like this?" And I said, "Well, you're absolutely right. What would you say?" And she said, "I'd say, slide on out of here, man." And I'd say, write that line down. And that's what we're going to say, you know. Whatever pride you can get or whatever dignity you can get, whether you're black or white or whatever, you've got to reach down and get it nowadays. Grab it, hang on to it. And that only helps a director, you know, if he'll run with it. It's the guy who comes down here from New York or California and says, no, you just keep there smiling and saying, "Yaza, yaza," you know. And that just puts us back 500 years to where we were before. It's the same with the southern bigoted sheriff who sits around chewing tobacco and is so dumb that he doesn't know what habeas corpus is or corpus delicti. I mean, when I saw, which was a hell of a movie, the Sidney Poitier, Rod Steiger picture, and Sidney Poitier had to tell Rod Steiger what rigor mortis was, I thought, well, my daddy was a southern sheriff, and he never graduated from high school, and he told me what rigor mortis was. I mean, doesn't take a $275 guy from up north to tell him that. The sheriff in the James Bond picture was an absolute ridiculous caricature. Absolutely unbelievable, stupid. I get furious when I see that. Really furious. And I've really tried. That's what was so wonderful about Deliverance, is that it is true that in northern Georgia, certain sections of northern Georgia, if you go back behind a couple of those mountains, you're going to find people who, if you're from the next town over, you are a foreigner. And if you talk with an Atlantan accent, you're just as big a foreigner as if you talk with a British accent. And you're liable not to make it out of there.
You're in a position now to pick and choose the roles you want to do. What now do you look for? What does a role have to have for you to really consider it?
Well, I'm looking now for humor because I happen to think that of my contemporaries, I have to look around and say, what's the competition? Who is trying to shoot me down, or who has shot me down? And I have to say Newman, Redford, McQueen, they come to mind first of all. I think I happen to do comedy better than any of them. So I can't stand in the doorway better than Paul Newman, and I can't have bluer eyes or blonder hair than Robert Redford. But I can do comedy better than either one of them. I can eat them up. So I'm looking for humor in films. I can't outact Gene Hackman, but get me on the screen and give me the Jack Lemmon part and have him play the Clint Eastwood part, and he's going to be working his ass off.
You've just finished a picture with Gene Hackman and Stanley Donen we've talked about earlier, Lucky Lady.
Yeah.
That will be out Christmas,
Yes.
I guess, and you're happy with it.
I'm thrilled with it. I think it's a chance to work with two thoroughbreds, you know, not two nominees, two Academy Award winners. And holy mackerel, that's when people start saying, wait a minute, he's holding his own there. And I'm talking about the people in my industry. If you care about them, and quite obviously I haven't for a long time. I've cared more about whether it was in the top 10 box office. But as I'm starting to get to the point where I want to hang it up, they are becoming a little important because there are some goals that I'd like to accomplish as an actor before I do hang it up.
Well, there was a film you made a year or so ago that, well, if I were handing out Oscars, I would have certainly handed one out to you for it, and that was The Man Who Loved Cat Dancing. I thought your performance in that was just superb.
Thank you.
And I hope you'll get a chance. Maybe, well, you've had a chance since then in Longest Yard. That was a fine, fine performance. And do you think Gator is in that kind of scenery-chewing category?
No. No, Gator is a very, very commercial picture that is made to entertain people and made to make money. And I'm not buying any tuxedos for the Oscars.
Okay, you'll win an Oscar for Lucky Lady and make a fortune with Gator then. Maybe both.
Jim, I hope you are the greatest predictor of all time.
We are just about out of time, and I want to thank you very much for taking out this time. I know you've got a busy schedule, and come to Atlanta and see us.
I will. Before we run out of time, I want to say one thing about you, and that is that I've done interviews all over the United States, all over the world, and you are one of the most knowledgeable and nicest people that I've ever been interviewed with.
That is very kind. I thank you for that. I'm looking forward to our next talk.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. My thanks to all of you for watching tonight. So from Savannah, good evening.